Hey everyone, it's CD here again and welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to start off by saying thank you to everyone that has subscribed to the channel so far. I think we've been starting 2026 off the right way. For those, if this is your first time tuning in, be sure to hit that button for more content. But let's get into it. So I wanted to do a review on my experience with the Samsung Galaxy Book 5 Pro laptop and really share whether I think it's really worth the value. I think that Samsung doesn't really get the same spotlight when it comes to other competitor laptops that are currently out there, such as the MacBook, for example. And I know Samsung did recently showcase their line of laptops like the Samsung Galaxy Book 6, but I wanted to, kind of share my experience with using this laptop. I've been using it over the last month or so, and truly it is an amazing machine since I've been using it. And even though it doesn't really get the same amount of credit, I think this machine is really great value and just want to kind of highlight it in this video. Now, this model is the 14-inch Galaxy Book 5 Pro with Intel's Ultra 7 chip. It's spec'd out with Intel's Arc graphics, 16 gigabytes of unified memory, and 512 gigabytes of storage space. This configuration goes for around $1,350 selling price. However, you can find some sales out there for under $1,000. And if you're willing to go the open box route, you can even find some cheaper options out there if you want to save some more money. I think if you're able to find this laptop for under $1,000, it's really a steal in my opinion, because this is a premium laptop that has a lot of high-end specs and is really capable for anyone that's doing content creation, any students or professionals that want a laptop that has strong performance but don't want to spend like an excessive amount of money. This is a really good laptop that can do a lot of different things. And at that price point, I think this laptop really is great value for money. The performance of this laptop has really just been outstanding for me since I've been using it over the last month or so. It just amazes me that for a very small and compact laptop such as this one, that is immensely capable of doing everything that I needed to do. It's just has very, very high performance and is capable of supporting me in all my workflows and everything that I continually do on a day-to-day basis. So I've been editing a lot of my videos in 4K in DaVinci Resolve. Actually, this video and my previous video were both edited off of this machine, and it has just outperformed my previous Surface Book laptop, which had its own dedicated GPU. And with a lot of the videos that I typically edit, I'm usually recording footage off of my Sony FX30 or my DJI drone. And those videos are typically, very, very highly compressed videos with a lot of data. And this laptop has been able to handle that. I also do a lot of my editing in DaVinci Resolve, and typically I'll incorporate a lot of, effects or like color grading, a lot of LUTs to my videos. And those tasks can usually be very, very demanding for most computers. But this Galaxy Book has really handled all those tasks with no issues for the most part. I might get the occasional hiccup here or there, but this laptop has handled it, with ease for the most part. And I think that for me and for my use case, this laptop has really exceeded all my expectations, and it's been the perfect laptop to have. Usually when I'm rendering videos, I'm rendering 10 to 15 minute videos that usually take up around, I would say 8 to 12 minutes to render. So nothing, no issues when it comes to rendering. I haven't experienced any issues when it comes to drop frames with those videos. It's been, perfect in that regard. Normally while I'm doing a lot of editing, I don't ever hear the fans off of this machine. I will say typically I like to keep this laptop on an actual laptop stand, which actually helps with the airflow underneath. And so, I really don't have too many issues. Sometimes I might, feel the bottom of the laptop get a little bit warm, but that's pretty much about it. When it comes to multitasking, I do regularly have a lot of apps open where I'll have, Chrome, Notion, Figma, Gmail. I'll have all these different tabs or apps open simultaneously. But I will say 16 gigabytes of RAM handles it all pretty well. Now you can't upgrade to 32 gigabytes on this machine, but I think 16 gigabytes works out for me. So a neat thing with this chip is that it actually has an NPU, which is supposed to handle all your AI functions. I think it's pretty neat if you're utilizing a bunch of AI programs, which we are seeing a lot more AI programs integrated into machines these days. So that's I would say a nice thing to have. I actually use Notion for doing a lot of my productivity tasks and in some of my workflows. So I would say it's a nice thing to have. I think the Ultra 7 chip in this laptop performs very, very well. Overall, I think it's a strong compromise for anybody that doesn't want to spend $2,000 or even $3,000 on a pro level laptop. this laptop is, really great for any type of content creators, any students, professional workers that really want strong performance. It's crazy because I even have like my own PC that I built with an NVIDIA 3080 GPU, and I still prioritize using this laptop for all of my work, doing all of my, any type of like applications that I'm using to do work. I'm using this laptop to do it. And it's nice being able to have a laptop, that's powerful, but then also portable. So like if I want to do work away from my desk, like on my couch, or if I'm traveling, I can have something, to do my work. For battery life, the official claim is up to 25 hours of continuous battery off of this device. I know that since I've been using it, I feel like I pretty much get all day and then some. Like I feel like I'm never having to charge it at all. I just, I never have to worry about the battery on this device for the most part. And typically it's just, from using using it with like basic like web browsing or doing like basic tasks where I'm checking like emails. Sometimes I'll even like, watch like Netflix shows or like watch movies off of this device. And I never really noticed like a significant drain on the battery at all. When it comes to video editing and DaVinci Resolve, I will say, I will notice the battery drop, slightly faster than normal. However, no major issues in that aspect. I've done a lot of like intensive like sessions where I'll be video editing for like 2 or 3 hours, and even then I'll still have plenty of battery left on the device. So no major issues there. I will say though, typically I do a lot of my video editing from my desk. So I always have, my laptop plugged into the power. And so I have a continuous, charging when I'm doing a lot of my video editing. But as far as the battery life on this machine, I would say, really, really good. Probably great, to be quite honest. Like I've had no issues with the battery on this device. And to be honest, I feel like I'm never consciously thinking about having to charge it. It's just always charged, if that makes any sense. And then when I am charging it, I will say it does charge pretty quick, depending on the power station that I'm using. I usually can get from 0 to 100, like a full charge in, about an hour for the most part. I really do love the overall build quality of this machine. And I think Samsung did a really great job of making this machine look just as good as any other laptop that's currently out there. The chassis itself is made out of aluminum, but just feels very premium. The laptop is very, very lightweight. And it's really, really impressive to me just how powerful it is for such a small, lightweight laptop. Like it's only 2.4 pounds, yet it outperforms or completely outperforms my previous Surface Book laptop. And I just think all around it's just, immensely powerful, and, it's capable of doing everything that I throw at it. Like when it comes to like, editing videos and like running applications like, DaVinci Resolve and rendering 4K videos. It's, small as a laptop this is, it handles all those things, with ease. I specifically have the 14-inch model just because I wanted something that was, simple and not as bulky as some other laptops that are out there. However, Samsung does have a 16-inch model, so if you want like a larger display, I personally just wanted something that was, more compact and has had more portability. Samsung really took a simple approach when it came to their port selection. I really like how they have the HDMI port as well as 2 Thunderbolt ports. The Thunderbolt port is just really nice to have when it comes to just having like, display output, obviously being able to charge, and then even like data transfer is a nice thing to be able to have as well. It's kind of interesting, at least for me, I've never had a laptop that didn't have like, a dedicated like charging port. I've always had like, a dedicated charger with a charging port. This laptop that my first laptop didn't necessarily have that. I think it actually makes sense that Samsung decided to do this and just only leverage the two Thunderbolt ports. I think it actually makes a lot of sense. I know for me personally, I actually usually have my laptop at my desk for the most part anyway. So I always have like a USB-C connection to get power anyway. So actually it works perfectly for me. The one bummer, however, when it comes to the port selection on the laptop is that it does have a mini SD card slot and doesn't have like a regular size SD card slot. I personally would have preferred to have like a regular size SD card slot. That's just what I'm typically used to. I'm just so used to using like a regular SD card slot when it comes to like transferring videos and pictures and that sort of thing. It actually works out nicely though when I'm transferring footage from my DJI drone, just because my drone actually has a mini SD card, so being able to transfer that footage is pretty easy. But when it comes to transferring, videos and pictures off of my camera, I have to use like a USB-C to transfer like some of that data for now. When it comes to the 3K AMOLED display on this laptop, it actually just looks amazing. And the 2880 by 1800 resolution, looks incredible. You get really vibrant colors, just amazing visuals when looking at the display on this laptop. and it's even at 120 hertz, which actually outperforms my current monitor at my desk. And there's, it's crazy because a lot of times I don't even want to work at my desk just because I want to be able to, look at the display while I'm doing work off my laptop. So a lot of times I don't even use will opt not to even work at my desk. Because of that. This is my first time using an OLED display, which is supposedly able to get up to 1,000 nits of peak brightness. When I compare it to my previous Surface Book laptop, this laptop's display is significantly brighter. And when it comes to like doing any type of like HDR work or like video work, this display is honestly perfect. In addition to that, like, the color accuracy, like the colors are just super vibrant on this display, and I will say AMOLED definitely gets it right in this case. In addition, this display even has anti-reflective coating and a touchscreen, which I think are really nice additions that you don't really see in most laptops. As I mentioned earlier, this device has 512 gigabytes of storage, but you can upgrade to 1 terabyte if you really want to. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this because it costs $300 to make this upgrade. I think it just makes more sense to get an external SSD. You can really find some good SSDs with 2 terabytes of storage for like half the price, which I just think makes a lot more sense when it comes to like better value for your money. When I think about who the ideal buyer for this laptop is, I think any type of like professional that really needs like a high performance machine, but what's something that at least is budget friendly. And I think with this laptop, it's really an excellent choice because you get a lot of pro level features without having to pay that pro level price tag. And in my case, I do a lot of 4K video editing off of this machine. And if you can get a machine that's under $1,000 that can be capable of doing that, that's really a solid choice. I think the laptop handles everything that you'd expect very, very well. And for any type of student or business professional that's out there, I find that you would probably get a lot of value out of adding this laptop to your current workflow. And to me, the battery alone is just so amazing to have, where I find myself never ever having to worry about charging it or even checking to see if like the battery is low. It just feels like it's always charged. This machine really hits the sweet spot, and it's powerful enough to be able to do any type of like photo editing or video work, but at the same time, it's still portable enough to use it as a laptop, essentially. And I think that if you're somebody that's looking for like a MacBook alternative, this laptop might be a very solid option, especially if you want to stay, in like kind of the Windows operating system. I know for me personally, I'm just so used to using Windows, it just kind of made sense for me. Overall, this laptop, is probably the best laptop that I've ever owned, to be quite honest. And I just think that the build quality itself, the vivid display, the strong performance of this laptop have all really, really stood out, at least to me. And I think it's a solid option, at least for anybody out there that's looking for a Windows-based laptop. This laptop is a very, very good value for your money. And that pretty much concludes everything, at least for this video. If you found the review helpful, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.